everybody, it's Stewart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the second week of July 2016. And it's been a very hectic and unfortunate week, especially in the United States. For example, you know about the events that happened in Dallas, Minneapolis, and Baton Rouge. Now, of course, not to be too conspiratorial, but they are all staged events, and I know that many people out there feel that staged events are fake and that they're all actors, etc. And in some cases that is true, but in many cases it is not true, and people do get killed and die, and things do get blown up, and you can see it. And so in these cases, I think people were absolutely killed. The killing of police officers, black people, and others, all staged so that the U.S. can remove guns and weapons from the population, and Obama actually stated this in his meeting in Warsaw, which is another story which I'll get to in a moment. But I want people to realize that the three places in the United States that it occurred were twin cities, all of them. Dallas, Fort Worth, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Baton Rouge, Port Allen. These are all twin cities, and if you connect them all, they create a nice triangle with the Ozarks and the Midwest in the middle. So I would say that if you look at the middle, you might see that this is where the New Madrid fault line passes through, and so perhaps these are rituals that took place at the points of the triangle in order to allow something to happen here in the Midwest as far as a huge earthquake. And so these are ritualistic killings, something that is planned for the United States. It's not a very good thing. And usually when these rituals occur in triplicate, it means that there is something else major that is being planned, and these are energy boosters for what is being planned in the very near future. By the way,
I don't want you to move on from that story because I have to comment before you go, but go ahead.
I want to talk about Obama and Poland.
Okay, so before you talk about that, I just wanted to make a note that I don't know if you saw this or not, but the New York Post actually called the killing of the Dallas police officers a civil war.
Yes.
They put that on the front page. Now, of course, we have been talking about this for several years, that the U.S. is being set up for a civil war.
And I said 2016, didn't I?
You did. And even when we think about the Twin Cities, what have we got? We have one side against another. So when we think of a civil war, we have black against white, slavery against non-slavery. So here we have the two sides of the coin. So
well, they're trying to create a race war.
Yes.
They're trying to create black against white, black against Hispanic, white against everybody else. And that's what's going on. We're seeing the same thing happening in the EU.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make that note because that's what we've been talking about, and here it is all over the front page of the New York Post. So Civil War, we've been talking about it, and now they're actually calling it such.
Yes, and Obama was in Warsaw at a meeting of the NATO allies, and he gave a speech with the President Duda. I like that name, President Duda, who. And he said to the Polish audience that he was concerned about Polish civil rights and that Poland's laws are going in the wrong direction and going to more extremes like they were in the communist times. And then the news in the United States reported that what Obama said was true and proven by the Poles, because in the Polish news they changed his words in the translation and made it sound different. So I sent all of that to my friends in Poland, and they said it's an absolute lie, that this did not happen that way, that the translations were accurate, and that the things on the news were just the way that they were supposed to be. And so U.S. news lied.
Well, because who over here speaks Polish? Just a few Polish people. And the other thing that we had talked about before, which you have heard when you were over there, that the Polish people, given a choice between Putin and the U.S. or Putin and Obama.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment. I just want to mention something about the weather to all the people out there who still believe in global warming, because this weekend, starting yesterday and today, there is a very big extremes in North America. In the eastern part of North America, there's an extreme heat wave. And in the western part of North America, in the Rocky Mountains, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, even parts of Colorado, a snowstorm in July. Up to 2 feet of snow at the higher elevations in July.
Well, you know what? When I was in the Alps, and of course I was up there, 9,000 feet, 3,000 meters. When the couple of days before I left, they started getting snow where I was. And they said that is very unprecedented. They do not get snow this time of year.
You know that we were in Yellowstone in the summertime, and then it was very hot.
It was extremely
It's
hot.
always hot there in the summertime,
Yes.
even at that elevation. And they're warning people now at Yellowstone and the Bitterroots and the Cascades that if you're going camping or visiting, you're going to get stuck in the snowstorm.
Yeah.
And remember last month, I think when you were away in June, it snowed in frickin' Hawaii.
Well, as I said, it snowed
So-
in northern Italy where I was, so.
I mean, that's not global warming.
No, it's very unusual for there. And they didn't get snow later on, but everything's changing.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Now, some of you watch Russia Today, and you know I consider it to be more accurate news reporting than anything in the Western world. Not that they don't give their own propaganda, they do, but they do tell more of the truth than the Western news. Now, there is a reporter on there by the name of Max Keiser who does a lot of financial predictions, and he predicted that the Deutsche Bank is the next Lehman Brothers, that in other words they're going to go bankrupt. Max predicted in 2008 that there would be a financial crash, and he was correct. And he also predicted the rise of virtual currencies, and he also said that this German bank was technically insolvent. And in 2015, Deutsche Bank reported a record loss of 6.8 billion euros.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of money to lose. And Deutsche Bank is larger than Lehman. He says, the Max Keiser, when this bank goes down, the 2008 crisis will look like a picnic. And it will set off a big global crisis and an insurrection against banker occupation.
It's kind of what happened in Iceland.
Which is what the Russians would like anyway. And here's what is very curious, because in reference to the 2008 crash, Max Keiser said, all they did was make it possible for a bigger crash to happen in 7 or 8 years' time. And that's where we're at now. What is 7 years? The Shemitah that we talked about, and here it is, and here it comes, people.
And we have that in our webinar. I don't remember the name of that one.
It was,
But anyway, that's in our webinar about the coming crisis of the Shemitah. So
he says that Deutsche Bank is clearly marked for death, and he said that that there are people who will make billions from its death by betting against it, as they did with Lehman. So people make money from banks going bankrupt.
well, they did that in the Great Depression. Those who were rich got richer because they knew what was happening.
But this has to happen before October, which is the next Jewish New Year. So that means before the next energy switch. So it's the next,
Well, we talked about it being in September, I think, didn't we? When we did this seminar, do you
Well,
remember?
it was supposed to be last September, but maybe it'll be this September. It has to be before the next Jewish New Year. Now let's talk about Putin, because he had a big conference with a lot of journalists, and he trashed them for telling tall tales and blindly repeating lies and misinformation provided by the United States, especially on its anti-ballistic missile systems and what's been constructed in Eastern Europe. He pointed out that since the Iran nuclear deal, the claim the system is to protect against Iranian missiles has been exposed as a lie, because it's against Russia, basically what's going on. And Putin completely lost his patience with the journalists, berating them for lazily helping to accelerate a nuclear confrontation by repeating U.S. propaganda. And he pleaded with the Western media, for the sake of the world, to change their law. It's never going to happen.
No.
Because the U.S. Western media is a mouthpiece of the Illuminati. And he says, we know year by year what's going to happen, and we know that they know. And he said that the media is spreading lies to its citizens of their countries, and that they don't feel a sense of impending danger. And the comment at the end here was, does anyone in the reeking garbage heap that is mainstream Western media have a conscience? No, they don't have a brain. They just say what's put in the prompter in front of them.
Well, if they want to keep their job, that's what they have to do. They have to repeat what's on the prompter.
Yes, and also it's true that the Illuminati is actually in battle with the Romanovs, which are in control of Russia. Rome. So there's a battle with the Pope and Rome and the Romanov family, all of this. There's a new alliance of Russia, China, Israel, and Africa, because I reported, I believe last week, about the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting Africa, creating new alliances there. And I just read recently that Israel is now reconnected with almost all of sub-Saharan Africa, which is very powerful. And what is not reported, there have been secret meetings in Israel with the leaders of Somalia, Mali, Niger, and the Gulf nations. So there are Islamic countries that are aligning themselves with Israel.
Well, what's interesting is the great wealth that's in Africa, and of course we reported many years ago at Prince William's 21st birthday when the Queen dressed up as the Queen of Africa, as well as Prince William's birthday theme was that, and they visit Africa a lot.
But in addition to all of this, Israel has recently made a new alliance with Turkey, and they have also have a very deep alliance now with Egypt, and a new alliance with Greece and Cyprus and Armenia and all these countries. So there's an axis being formed against the EU and the Americans.
Yeah, and there's a lot of economic development that's happening in Africa right now. I read in the National Geographic, it's been a few months ago, about what's going on there. So because people don't travel, they don't realize what's there.
No, people don't understand. Now, this is a story that is interesting for us because we lived there. You might remember back in 1996 when we lived in Long Island, the TWA crash off the coast, which is not far from where we were living. TWA Flight 800. Now there is a new book that has been written, which is about the flight that crashed off the coast of Long Island 12 minutes after taking off from JFK Airport. And the National Transportation Safety Board spent 4 years looking into the cause to declare it a short circuit in the plane's fuel tank, which has never happened before or since because it doesn't happen. So they spent 4 years thinking of a cover story that after 4 years people won't remember what happened or care about it anymore, and they'll just accept it. That's what happened. The book is called TWA 800, The Crash, The Cover-Up, and The Conspiracy. The author is Jack Cashel. I'm looking forward actually to getting that book. And he says he has spoken with eyewitnesses who have never been public before, who say they saw a rocket or a missile. And you remember I reported years ago that a Saudi Arabian airline of pilots reported a missile hitting the plane, and then after those pilots landed, they disappeared.
I remember.
Yeah. And the book also claims a government cover-up involving the FBI and the CIA. Gee, how unusual. They would never cover up anything, would they? No. So, it also says that it took 10 months before all of the 230 victims were identified, and that there were close to 100 people that said that they watched a streak travel from the Earth up to the aircraft. The FBI interviewed 755 individuals, and 258 of them described seeing a streak of light. That was left out of the reports. But the FBI interviewed one witness who was called Witness 73, never identifying this person, and it's a woman. And the woman said that she was closely watching the plane when the explosion occurred. She was keeping her eyes on the aircraft because she was at the beach at 8:30 p.m. She observed a red streak moving up from the ground toward the aircraft at approximately 45-degree angle. The red streak was leaving a light gray-colored smoke trail. And then it went to the right side of the plane, and the plane blew up. And she saw the pieces. She said the streak looked like an upside-down Nike swoosh logo. Now, if you're going to make up a story, you wouldn't make something that specific to look like that. She observed the front of the aircraft separate from the back, and then the debris falling down, and there's claims that someone inside a government agency may have attempted to discredit her statement by falsifying the records. Now, you may remember the next day, because we lived there, the next day the authorities went to all the houses along the beach and confiscated every
Their cameras.
photograph, all the cameras. They didn't care if you took your cameras.
I remember.
It's like Gestapo tactics. And then they said, if you find anything on the beach, don't touch it because it could be poisonous. You know why?
Let them know.
Why? Because I reported a long time ago that on that plane were vials of the AIDS virus, and I also reported that on board were French and Israeli agents who had stolen samples from Los Alamos, New Mexico, because they were going to prove that the virus was an alien virus that was manufactured by the government. And you also remember that when the bodies were found, the blood was like jelly, like it was some kind of...
Very strange.
It was not an explosion, it was some kind of heat that bombarded them very quickly. And same thing on the Swiss Air plane in 1999 that crashed again off the coast of Long Island between Nova Scotia and Long Island, and bodies were found in the same condition. Interesting. You may go.
All right. So I've been talking to people about what's inside of the Earth. So the reason I bring that up is because this wasn't found inside of the Earth, but they're using this term, newly unearthed photos. So I want you to keep that in mind as we move along. So there are newly unearthed photos of President Obama in Muslim garb.
Yes.
Now the interesting thing about this is mainstream news reporting this.
Yes.
Fox News Channel's Bill O'Reilly. And Fox News Channel Bill O'Reilly said that it underscores Obama's deep ties to the faith and possibly helps explain his reluctance to call out radical Islam.
Because he is Muslim.
The photos were aired on the O'Reilly Factor, and they were taken at the wedding of Obama's half-brother, Malik Obama, in Maryland sometime in the 1990s.
I remember seeing those pictures.
And he says they were not offered as evidence that Obama is Muslim, but show his deep emotional ties to the religion of his father and stepfather. Because why else would he be dressed that way?
Why would he dress like that?
Because you would go, I've been to different weddings of different faiths,
That
and I
doesn't
don't
mean you
dress
dress
like
like-
them.
exactly.
I don't dress like them. It's not my faith. Mr. O'Reilly said, quote, "There is no question the Obama administration's greatest failure is allowing the Islamic terror group ISIS to run wild, murdering thousands of innocent people all over the world, including many Muslims. Mr. Obama has never acknowledged that mistake, nor does he define the ISIS threat accurately."
That's because he helped create them.
Now, what's interesting is that there was a similar photo, which that might be the one you remember, which emerged in 2008. So now they're showing this up again, when Obama was running for the Democratic presidential nomination against Hillary Clinton. So these are new photos that they're bringing forward bit by bit.
There's Hillary again.
It says in that photo he was seen wearing a white turban and Muslim dress, and the photo was sent to the influential Drudge Report, and then Obama's campaign blamed Clinton for the, quote, smear. So why is that a smear if he's wearing that kind of clothing?
And now he supports her.
And now, apparently, they have more, so how many more photos are going to be unearthed before we're done, right?
I want to see Michelle in a tuxedo.
Now, interestingly enough, you're talking about things happen in threes. There was a newly discovered planet that has triple sunrises and triple
Ooh,
sunsets.
need a lot of sunscreen on that one.
It's a strange new world in the constellation Centaurus that has 3 suns, and a year lasts half a millennium from Earth's
Well,
perspective.
you can live a long time.
That's right. It's changing time, it's changing how long people are going to live, it's changing your perspective. It said, as amazing as 3 sunsets and sunrises are, I think nature will have some other surprises in store for us as we continue exploring.
Yes,
so what
I'm
does
sure
that
they
mean?
know.
I'm sure they know, but they're starting to release this publicly. And then going back deep inside the Earth, did you read about the massive lava lamp blobs?
No.
It says now listen to this, 2 continent-sized blobs.
Wow.
So those are big. 2
big
continent-sized
blob.
blobs of hot and possibly molten rock can be found deep underground, about halfway to the center of the Earth. The curious structures are each so large that they would each be 100 times taller than Mount Everest, and could be made up of materials that may shed light on how the Earth was formed. Here we
I
are,
could tell how it was formed.
changing history again, right? Listen to this. One is located, guess where, beneath the Pacific Ocean, and the other is located beneath the Atlantic Ocean.
How unusual.
And they send up plumes through the rock like a lava lamp. So it says these are also compositionally distinct, meaning they contain materials not typically found in the rest of the Earth. Could that be reference to Atlantis and Lemuria?
Duh.
Yet even some of the most basic information about the blobs still remain a mystery. And a geoscientist at Stanford says, quote, if we understand these blobs better, that would represent a huge step forward in understanding the deep workings of our planet.
Yeah, but they won't tell you the truth of that.
No, but they might be using those blobs to help raise up Atlantis and Lemuria, whatever they found under there. So I thought that was interesting. Then